Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Thomas. Thanks for joining us on this special weather impact alert as another atmospheric river moves into the region. I want to show you a look in downtown Sacramento and in the Sierra along I-80. You can see snow and high winds. Those are the big issues today. And I can tell you that people on Highway 50 are also facing wet and snowy conditions. Just look at this. This is a look at Myers this afternoon. And here's the deal. The heavy snow in the Sierra is making travel difficult all throughout the day. This is a look at westbound I-80 at the Nevada state line, where traffic was held this morning because of spinouts and heavy snow. And as you can see there, it is still slow going. Meanwhile, snow is piling up at Sierra ski resorts. ABC 10's Devin Truby has a closer look.
Hey guys, Devin Truby with ABC 10 up here at Boreal, where it is actively snowing and blowing snow as we're getting that wind whipping across the face, but that's not stopping people from coming out here. We've got some snowshoers making their way through as well through the trees, and we've also got lots of people up here skiing and snowboarding. All the lifts are running after a little bit of a power outage earlier this week at Boreal. Everything up and running and safe now. Let's go ahead and take a look. We've got lots of skis and snowboards up here, people getting ready to go out on those lifts. These blowing snow conditions, though, they're going to continue into the weekend, so we want to bring it over now to Tucker, who's here with Boreal. A dry January so far. What are you expecting for this weekend and the rest of the season?
Well, Old Man Winter did take a nap, but he has woken back up, and we are so excited to see the snow coming down. These are going to be some of the best conditions that we've seen all year. We've got over 1 to 2 feet in the forecast just for today, and then we've got sunny skies for the weekend. It's really setting up to be one of the best ones we've seen.
Some technical difficulties a little bit earlier this week. Can you talk to us about what happened and how you're prioritizing safety here with both the snow event and also the high wind advisory?
Yeah, so we always monitor those wind speeds because safety is the #1 concern for our guests and our employees here at Boreal. So we watch those wind speeds. Sometimes it dies down throughout the day and we're able to open those lifts back up, but sometimes it does shut you down for the entire day, and it's usually just our upper chairs. We were able to spin the ones down here in the base area throughout those storm cycles.
And earlier this week was just a simple power outage. Everything's safe and ready to go for this weekend.
That's right. With those winds, sometimes those power lines do come down, or trees can as well. I'm not really sure what happened in this last situation, but it did go down for all of Donner Summit. But luckily PG&E jumped on it and we were able to spin the lifts the next day.
All right, thanks so much, Tucker. Well, they are excited to have people up for the weekend. Caltrans saying that Friday going to be the best day to travel as we're going to see a break from this snow system. And that'll be a nice time to go ahead and make your way up, but slow. Be prepared with chains, having those emergency things in your vehicle, snacks, blankets, chargers in case you were to get stuck, and making sure that you're following either the National Weather Service or Caltrans for those alerts about the weather, and ABC 10 because we'll keep you updated on the weather. You can also stream us anytime, anywhere on the ABC 10 Plus streaming app to get you the most accurate weather and travel conditions. I'm Devin Truby. We'll see you next time.
Okay, Devin, you be safe out there. Thank you. Here in the valley, this week's rainfall is filling creeks and streams. River levels are also rising. This is along the Sacramento River at River Road in West Sacramento. We also have a look at the Sacramento River at the Tower Bridge. You can see the difference in the levels between Tuesday and just today. Discovery Park is now closed, and that is because of the rising water. Keep in mind the park is designed to flood, and it will now be closed until further notice because of flooding concerns. Now, as those river levels increase, you'll start to see the Yolo bypass area fill with water. This was the Yolo Causeway just this morning. Keep in mind the bypass will fill up as water spills from the Fremont Weir to reduce downstream flooding. And then look at this. 2 homes were hit by a 140-foot tall tree. One of the homes even cut in half. This is in Pollock Pines yesterday. Thankfully, no one was inside either of the homes when this happened. Utilities were secured and turned back over to the homeowners. Cold temperatures are expected this weekend, dropping into the low 30s. And because of this, the Sacramento County Department of Homeless Services is opening a shelter in North Sacramento. The First Step Community's emergency shelter is located at 1200 North A Street in Sacramento. is set to open Friday at 5 p.m. and they'll stay open through 9 a.m. Monday, February 10th. Regional Transit is also continuing its free rides to weather respite centers through Monday. And so let's check in now with Chief Meteorologist Monica Woods, who's tracking the latest on this storm.
All right, a lot to unpack here. I'm going to talk about the current weather system that is hitting us right now, as well as the lingering impacts from the earlier atmospheric rivers. So a lot to go over here. Let's take it step by step. First of all, this weather system that you saw behind us here, that is going to be our weather impact alert day today, with thunderstorms still a possibility for today, as well as gusty winds and that heavy snow. We'll see that snow line bumping up and down the hill. We're still expecting major mountain impacts all the way through tonight, as well as tomorrow. The storm system lingering in the Sierra for a little bit longer. Here's a look at our wind advisory. As you can see, it's going to extend all throughout the valley, parts of the lower foothills towards the Delta and even the Bay Area. We're expecting gusts up to about 45 miles per hour. Our wind advisory in effect until tomorrow morning at 1 a.m. Secure those loose objects and be prepared for the potential of power outages. Taking a look at our winter storm warning in the high country, that will go on until noon tomorrow. So that's what we're talking about, these lingering impacts for the Sierra. 8 to 18 inches of snow expected. Wind gusts up to 65 miles per hour with major travel impacts up and down the Sierra Spine and towards the coastal region as well for that coastal range. As far as our winter storm severity index, the biggest impacts will be through the central Sierra around Yosemite, but they really need the snow. They largely dodged some of those earlier atmospheric rivers, so we need to build that snowpack for the central and southern Sierra. It's not going to be great travel, but once we get past this point, things are going to be looking pretty good here for the weekend, as you heard from Devin. Satellites and radar, we're looking at the band of rain generally hugging that I-80 line and then points northward here across the Bay Area. Also some scattered showers. Now the back edge of this will include the colder air. That's what's going to help drive that snow line down for tomorrow. Little closer perspective, we've seen periods of some moderate rain throughout the Sacramento region, the capital region, including along I-5 towards Williams. As far as the northern San Joaquin Valley, once again, we've been struggling to really pull out the bulk of some of these storms. Moving into the mother lode, it is rain for Jackson, Murphys, and Arnold. A little bit higher up the hill, it turns to snow for Kirkwood and Bear Valley, as well as the Tahoe Basin. It is going to fluctuate, though, for tonight. We actually get a little pulse of warmer air coming in, and that's going to actually bring that snow line up tonight to near 7,000 feet. Again, south of Highway 50 into the 88, 89, and 120, even Highway 4, we're looking at some pretty good snowfall here all the way into Yosemite. North of I-80, we're looking at snowfall all the way up towards Quincy. And then towards the northern and central Sacramento Valley, it is rain right now. Want to give you a look at that Park Fire burn scar. The threshold for rain rates doesn't quite meet the criteria for big mud or debris flow risk, but that is an area that we've been watching, especially with the volume of water that came in over the weekend and then early this week. So a lot to continue to monitor there. It's just we're not in that really dangerous situation. As far as the storm system coming in for today, since midnight, we've had about 1/4 of an inch for Sacramento, closer to about 2/10 of an inch for Stockton and Modesto. So it hasn't been horrible. It's just the bulk of the rain is generally riding north of us once again, with Marysville and Auburn closer to about 1/2 an inch, as well as Oroville, close to 1/2 an inch for San Francisco. These numbers will go up a little bit, but not a whole lot. We still have that potential for thunderstorms throughout much of the northern San Joaquin Valley, the Sacramento Valley, parts of the coastal region, the foothills, and even into the Sierra. That just shows you the instability that's yet to move through. Peak wind gusts for today. This just came up here. Sacramento close to about 40 miles per hour, as well as Stockton, Modesto 32 mile per hour peak wind gusts. Placerville, South Lake Tahoe closer to about 40 miles per hour. But we're not quite done with the wind yet. For tonight's commute, you can see those wind gusts still upwards of 30 to 35 miles per hour. The foothills getting in on some of that action a little bit later on into the afternoon and the evening, as we start to see periods of those wind gusts closer to about 40 to 45 miles per hour. Heading into the overnight hours, we actually see a bigger wind event developing on the east side of the valley towards the foothills and the Sierra, where those wind gusts will be closer to about 40 to 45 miles per hour. 50 mile per hour peak wind gusts potentially for South Lake Tahoe, right around 1 a.m. At that point, we'll start to wind things down and we'll close the gap on some of those peak gusts in the Sierra and even towards the valley. So a quieter start to our Friday morning commute and a little bit drier, but not completely dry. All right, let's talk about temperatures because this has been a situation that we've actually had to watch a lot closer with the recent storm systems that have come through. The snow line's been running high and at times putting a large amount of water coming down the hill. So temperatures are in the 30s for the Tahoe Basin, kind of right at that threshold of seeing some snow at the Tahoe Basin. It's kind of one of those situations. It's a really cold rain just on the cusp of seeing that snow. You can see where we've already started to see the cold air working in. Marysville's at 44 degrees. We're 11 degrees warmer where we haven't seen the big pulse of colder air moving in yet, including Sacramento, Elk Grove, Stockton, and Modesto. So really that line hugging I-80 and points northward. A view across the region, Donner Lake, it is, say, slow going is probably an understatement. Look at this, just creeping along here along I-80, trying to make it up the hill. At Myers, it's that cold rain, so it's kind of slushy up there right now. We've got rain in the capital region. I-5 near Sacramento International, that too, slow going. Oh, if you have a flight out today, it's just one of those days, can't be running late. And then Biz 80 at Exposition, also slow going. That's always a trouble spot anytime there is rain in the forecast and actually coming down. Futurecast taking us through the evening commute to some spotty showers here. Looks like our best chance of thunderstorms will actually be in the central Sacramento Valley through at least the early evening. But one thing I want to point out here is look at what happens to the snow line. When we're in the warmer sector of the storm before that cold air gets in, we start to see more of a mix, a bit more widespread through that 80-50 corridor and then up north of I-80. Places that are currently seeing snow will actually start to see some rain. And then it flips as soon as that cold air works in. So tomorrow morning, it is a snow event. If you're thinking, oh, I want to get an early jump on the slopes, I would think again before you head up too early on Friday. The best chance to get up there with some dry weather will actually be later on in the day. And you can see how the rain is still lingering into our forecast early Friday, starting to wind its way down during the afternoon. And by the evening, things are moving smoothly up there in the high country, at least for weather. We don't have a whole lot of precipitation left to go. It's just about 1/4 of an inch or so throughout the valley. So our totals will come in at about 1/2 inch by the time all is said and done. About 1 inch to 1.5 inches for the foothills. It's been a much bigger player for this year, and we're expecting still to see a lot more snow coming in. Just through 6 a.m. tomorrow, about 1 to 10 inches of additional snow. But as I mentioned, that snow line kind of going up and down the hill. So we'll call for that weather impact alert at least through tonight, early tomorrow morning. Our snow line about 5,000 feet early today, up to about 7,000 feet overnight, then back down to about 5,000 to 4,000 feet for tomorrow. 7,000 feet is still going to put snow on the passes. Just be prepared to have those chains. This is on the heels of a pretty good snowfall Monday and Tuesday, 10 to 30 plus inches at the ski resorts. That's why they are preparing for big amounts of people on the slopes. I would be prepared to just wait in line for those lifts because a lot of people want to hit that fresh powder, especially after what's going to come in overnight tonight through early tomorrow. Okay, now let's talk about the impacts of this rain. 5-day rain totals. Redding, 10 plus inches of rain. It's still raining there, by the way. So this was as of yesterday. 5 plus inches for Auburn and Vacaville. Over 4.5 inches for Placerville, Oroville, 4.5 inches or so. Marysville, about 3.5 inches. Roseville, 3 inches of rain. Sacramento Executive, 2.5. Stockton, almost 2 inches of rain, with Modesto at about a 3/4 of an inch of rain. But again, that was as of yesterday. That doesn't even include what's coming in for today. So we actually have flood warnings going on along the upper Sacramento River. Minor flooding occurring. It's not anything that's actually going into people's homes or anything. No levees are breaking or anything like that. It's the weirs are flowing. So as far as being by the river, really exercise a lot of caution because the rivers are fast, they're high, and we've got water that's flowing into the Sutter bypass and the Yolo bypass. So if you're on the Yolo Causeway, you're likely going to see some water just kind of filling underneath I-80 as you're headed out to the Bay Area or back into downtown Sacramento. Here's a look at kind of a general overview of what we've seen with our rain totals from a series of atmospheric rivers. And keep in mind that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday storm, that one storm was very warm, so it put a lot of water in the higher elevations. Gravity is going to take it downhill, and everything moves into the valley. So we're continuing to monitor those rising river levels. Our statewide precipitation, all of this is good news in general. We're starting to see some of those deficits erode slightly. The biggest winner in all of this water season so far is the extreme northern part of California, with Redding almost 10 inches ahead of where we usually are. Eureka about 7.5 inches ahead of where we usually are. The rest of the state is still seeing some deficits, but by the time we're done with this last atmospheric river, things should be closing up just a little bit for these deficits for San Francisco and Sacramento, and we have more on the way as well. The water year so far, January is what did us in. We just didn't get anything in terms of big atmospheric rivers coming in, so we just had to rely on November and December. As we flipped the calendar, February has come in with a series of those atmospheric rivers, and again, more is on the way, so there's still plenty of time to make up for what was lost in January. This was just released from the U.S. Bureau of Reclamations. They are going to be the federal agency that controls Shasta and Oroville, along with other reservoirs throughout the state. They just announced they're up to about 30,000 cubic feet per second being released at Keswick Dam, which is going to put that water into the upper Sacramento River. They're going to go up to 60,000 cubic feet per second tomorrow, and that means extra water flows downstream. So that's basically at the headwater of the Sacramento River, and everything comes down into the Sacramento region, met by the American River. That's why we have a lot of flood protections, and I'm going to explain the weir system in just a second. First of all, let's just look at those Shasta gains here. As you can see, coming up significantly. Look at that sharp rise that we saw just with this series of atmospheric rivers. I just wanted to give you some numbers so you can kind of get an idea of what we're talking about. As of yesterday, what the inflow was about 49,000 cubic feet per second. They were only releasing, you saw that, about 23,000 cubic feet per second. So about a 20-foot rise there at Shasta. Folsom also coming up really nicely here. Now, the key with Folsom is the water managers have to be much more delicate about what they can keep in. It's just, quite frankly, smaller. So despite the fact we're seeing about 23,000 cubic feet per second coming in, they're only releasing about 4,000 cubic feet per second as of yesterday. It's likely with more storms in the pipeline that could go up. They're just watching it day by day to see how much water actually comes down the hill. Oroville, well, that's our state's biggest reservoir, at least state controlled. Currently, you can see sharp rise there. Inflow is about 35,000 cubic feet per second as of yesterday. Outflow about 34,000. So again, they're pretty much releasing what is coming into that reservoir. That goes into the Feather River, by the way, if you're keeping track. All right, river stages. You can see just a couple of orange dots here. The Russian River finally starting to subside a little bit there, but the Sacramento River will remain at minor flood stage. I showed you that flood warning, and that will stay in effect at least through tomorrow, but it could very likely be extended. It just depends on how much runoff continues to go in. So here's a look at our flood protection weir system. Even folks that have lived here their entire life still don't completely understand the weir system. Some of them are passive, and the water reaches a certain amount, and the water just kind of flows through these gates into areas that are made to be floodplains. And then we've got some that are going to be manually operated. The only one that we have here on the Sacramento line is going to be the Sacramento Weir. I actually spoke to the California-Nevada River Forecast Center, and they said they do not anticipate, even with more storms coming, to open those gates. It's always kind of cool to watch them open the gates. Believe it or not, they're still hand cranked, so it's kind of going back to the old times there, but they are not expecting that to happen. Here's why the Fremont Weir, one of those passive weirs, is actually flowing, naturally flowing. It's passive again. It just reaches this certain stage and starts to flow. It's above that monitor stage. It's expected to crest by Saturday, and then we'll kind of stay at that line. As I mentioned before, too, everything upstream goes downstream, kind of meets in the Sacramento downtown area. High Street Bridge is one of the monitoring stages, and it's expected to stay not only below flood stage, but below monitor stage as well. It's come up several feet, but it's expected to crest on Saturday about 24.49 feet. The California Water Conveyance System, if you haven't been confused enough by the WEIR system, we get into the Water Conveyance System, which is massive. We go from the northern part of the state where we have Shasta. As I mentioned, that's the headwater that takes the Sacramento River right into downtown. Folsom, by the way, releases into the American River. So those two meet at Discovery Park. We talked about the flooding there already. Eventually, that makes it out to the Delta. The Delta pumps, this also just out from the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation, are operating at full capacity. So that's what sends water through the Central Valley to folks that need it, all the farming and agriculture that go on there. And then eventually get the California Aqueduct taking water all the way into Southern California. So we are watching it all. It is busy, to say the least. All right, here's a look at our reservoir supplies. A lot of folks are wondering about this. We're at about 80 to 90% of capacity, well over average. So water managers are trying to keep as much water as they can. There are federal regulations that only allow for a certain amount of water to be held, but they're trying to do their best to hold on to it because, as we know, the rainy season comes to an end, and it's all about dry and hot weather. New Melones, Don Pedro, Millerton, looking pretty good. Millerton's kind of the one that's a little bit lower right now because our snowpack and the rainfall just really hasn't been hitting that part of the state. We're at 114% of average for the Northern Sierra, almost 90 for the Central, and the Southern Sierra at least above 50% right now, bringing our statewide average up to about 75%. Looking pretty good there. Our storm timeline, we get a bit of a break over the weekend with morning frost, but the rain and snow making a return. We have a very active Pacific. Again, this is the time of year we typically see that. It's just it kind of was so dry in January. It's nice to see that things are picking up again. Friday, we still have some lingering showers, impacts for the Sierra, frosty conditions over the weekend. Now, that's a big thing to keep in mind because this next weather system moving in is once again going to be favoring our snowpack. That's what we want. That's our savings account of water through the summer. And as you can see, it's not an atmospheric river. There's no connectivity into the Pacific here of that plume of moisture. It's going to just shoot right down over towards the Sierra. But then we get another, it looks like atmospheric river coming in by next Thursday. Along with that, we're already going to have that cold air in place. This could be a really good snow, low snow coming in next week. We'll have that patchy frost. Get ready for some frosty mornings all the way into early next week with a likely cooler setup in the 8 to 14 day climate outlook, but also potentially likely wetter. Even some of the weather hazards are showcasing precipitation as well as snowfall in that moderate risk range, as well as some wind. So we'll take a look at how that's going to progress. Mainly a player for our Tuesday forecast in the Sierra. Slight chance of some valley showers, but bigger chance comes in by next Thursday and Friday. So we'll have those snow showers for Friday, dry for the weekend. Tuesday, snow showers again next week. Some rain in the foothills, and then we're dry for the weekend. We'll watch that Tuesday storm, but right now it largely looks like it is going to be more of a Sierra situation. I put a raindrop in there because right on the heels of that, we get into potentially another atmospheric river. The flood risk is a little bit on the lower side due to this drying out period, but we're going to continue to watch how that will unfold, given that we are starting to see an increase in releases as well as those weirs are flowing, the Delta pumps at full capacity. We've been unpacking a lot. If you're watching us on YouTube, I invite you to download our ABC 10 Plus streaming app, live, local, always on, not only with these extended forecasts and explainers, but our weather and climate specials, including California Water Wasted. It's an Emmy Award winner. You don't want to miss it. So download that ABC 10 Plus streaming app. We love to see you on there. And also, send us your questions. What are you interested in? Because we're always looking at new content to dig into and make sure that we give a full-bodied weather experience.